who you associate with is part of your rhetoric. If I was talking to you about ending the mafia, as I did in the 1980s, or fighting the mafia, and I had Joe Colombo sitting next to me, you would say I was a big hypocrite, wouldn't you? It wouldn't matter what my rhetoric was. Oh, I'm fighting the mafia. There's Joe Colombo. Yeah, I'm for the police, and there's Al Sharpton. Every cop in America is going to say, give me a break. I get the point, Mr. President.
There you go. Rudy Giuliani really taking Major Garrett to school on CBS's Face the Nation. Joining us now on the Malzberg panel, reporter for National Review Online, Katherine Timpf, and commentator on religion, society, and pop culture, Brad Hirschfield, is with us. And let me start with you, Katherine. Welcome aboard. And first of all, the mayor, not Giuliani, but the mayor who's the problem currently, and that is Bill de Blasio, was booed today while he was addressing the cadets who just graduated the NYPD Academy, including Pat Lynch, the head of the PBA's son, was in that class. And when the mayor said that you're going to face a lot of problems that you didn't cause, somebody in the crowd shouted out, "You did." Now, I don't have a pride. I don't know if I'm for. I don't know if I'm for heckling, but the criticism, even from Giuliani, about turning your back on the mayor, I think that's a legitimate form of protest that these officers are entitled to.
Right, I don't think this is surprising at all. This is the last person these graduates want to hear from right now. And maybe this is why, if you're the mayor of New York City, you don't alienate the NYPD. Even if you did think there were these widespread problems of bad-mouthing the media and turning them against you, probably not the best strategy to try to solve the problems. And of course, I don't think a few bad apples or any specific situations really suggest that. But even if you did, this is about the worst way that I could think of. If you don't want that kind of thing to happen, then maybe don't turn your own police force against you.
Yeah, what about it, Brad?
Well, I think he has done a lot of things that alienate the cops, and I think that the response by the police officers, both existing and the newly inducted ones, is totally understandable. I also think it's totally unacceptable, and here's why. When they give you a gun and you put on that uniform, you accept certain limitations. And I think we've got to figure out is what is legitimate protest that also accepts the legitimate limitations that come with having the power of a gun and a badge. So again, totally understandable, but I do think unacceptable.
But what about, Brad, the responsibilities that come with being elected mayor and being, in effect, commander-in-chief of that police force and standing there in unprecedented fashion and saying, my cops have been racist for decades and I'm afraid they're going to harm my black son?
I think those statements are why he should be held accountable. You said he's elected. As far as I'm concerned, the next election should already be decided. I don't think there's a lot he can do to pull this one back.
But that's 3 years away.
I understand, but that's the way election cycles work, and there are other forms of protest. By the way, I think that the heckling from non-uniformed personnel is a lot more understandable. I think that the limitations are specifically on people who have guns and badges. That family members feel unsupported by this mayor, I actually do understand. I would add one thing, though, Steve. I think that using the term traitor, as one person shouted out, is really problematic for one reason. Treason is a capital offense. And when people start calling elected officials traitors, some very ugly things can and have happened. So I think there's another piece of this is also what language we use when we protest has got to be thought about.
Katherine, one might argue, and I don't think they mean it treason as relating to the country and making it a capital offense, but if you're going to say ugly things happen, God forbid, some might argue, as they are, that the mayor's rhetoric, you know, and now we have 2 dead cops.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily, obviously the way he handled it made racial tensions worse. I don't know if this specific issue was really all of his fault. This guy went and killed his girlfriend, then he killed 2 cops, and you know, he obviously had some issues. You don't want to go too far and kind of say the same thing as some people said with the Gifford shooting to blame it on the Tea Party. But obviously he did make things worse in terms of racial tensions. It's his job to be a little more classy than that. And bring himself down to the level of that rhetoric. I guess a lot of the cops should do the same in terms of, you know, maybe not heckling or yelling out. But the things he was saying during the speech was like he was acting as if he's had their back the whole time. And I couldn't imagine sitting there and just listening to that kind of hypocrisy either. I might have gotten a little bit angry.
All right, we're going to come back with Katherine Timpf and Brad Hirschfield here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We have a new poll out, a presidential poll that shows, unfortunately, in my mind, Jeb Bush is at the top of the heap. We also have some news, an interview done on NPR by Barack Obama with regards to Iran. And again, guess what? The news is all good from Barack Obama when it comes to his good buddies and the Ayatollah. This as Palestinians push ahead at the UN with a quest for statehood. It's all next on the Steve Malzberg Show.